In a world of slam dunks, crossovers, and million-dollar paychecks, the NBA has long reigned supreme. With all the pomp and flash of big-time professional sports, NBA players seem to have it all. The fame, the massive endorsement deals, and of course, the massive salaries that keep their bank accounts as full as a packed stadium. But in the shadow of this towering league lies the WNBA, the women's professional basketball league that, despite skilled players and passionate fans, struggles to grab the same financial shine. For years, the pay gap between these leagues has been a hot topic, and recently, WNBA players have started demanding something more dramatic, even controversial, that NBA players chip in directly to help them close the earnings gap. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. To many, this was a bold ask. Picture it, a WNBA player suggesting that their male counterparts in the NBA fork over some of their income to help boost their paychecks. Some NBA fans couldn't believe it, spitting out their drinks in shock at the notion. It was as if a twist had hit the basketball universe that no one saw coming. Demanding the NBA's superstar athletes, who worked their way up through countless hours on the court, to share their wealth, reactions from the public, sports analysts, and players themselves were anything but subtle. Opinions flooded social media, sports talk shows, and online forums, with everything from fiery criticism to defensive justifications. At the heart of the conversation is the financial disparity between the two leagues, which is glaring and undeniable. The NBA is an empire, with billions in revenue, lucrative TV deals, and teams valued at hundreds of millions, if not billions. It's a powerhouse that has captured the attention of sports fans around the globe. The WNBA, on the other hand, operates on a much smaller scale. Its viewership numbers are significantly lower, and its fan base, while dedicated, isn't large enough to generate the kind of revenue that fuels the NBA's success. Because of this, WNBA players' salaries are much lower, and the league itself relies heavily on the NBA's financial support to stay afloat. This dependency only adds to the tension, as players from the WNBA feel they deserve more, while NBA players and fans argue that the numbers don't justify such a demand. To many fans, the notion of NBA players handing over portions of their salaries seemed ludicrous. "Let the NBA players pay us more" wasn't exactly a popular rallying cry. Some fans saw it as an overreach, like asking a wealthy relative for cash, not because you're in dire straits, but because you feel entitled to a bigger slice of the family pie. The whole thing seemed to carry an undertone of entitlement that struck a nerve with people who already felt skeptical about the WNBA's financial model. "Why should they get paid if they're not drawing in the numbers?" was a common refrain, echoing the sentiment that sports, like any other business, relies on market demand. In that light, the demand for NBA-funded paychecks seemed almost comical to some, like asking an older sibling to share their allowance just because they had a better paper route. Some WNBA players were quick to defend their position, expressing frustration at the lack of financial equity and respect for their talents. From their perspective, they put in just as much work, sacrifice, and commitment as any NBA player, often with fewer rewards and greater obstacles. Their argument wasn't just about the money, but about recognition. They weren't necessarily expecting to earn LeBron-level paychecks, but they wanted a living wage that respected their craft and hard work. But where they saw dedication and grit, detractors saw a lack of market appeal. In a business where revenue speaks louder than anything else, the low ratings and ticket sales were hard to ignore. This, for many, is the bottom line. They couldn't understand why NBA players should be held financially accountable for a different league's struggles. The situation highlighted an awkward dynamic between the two leagues. NBA players who had little to do with WNBA financial management were suddenly thrust into a conversation where they were expected to be benefactors of sorts. Many found it ridiculous, and a few weren't shy about expressing their thoughts publicly. They argued that they had earned their spots, their salaries, and that they shouldn't be asked to subsidize another league just because it was related by sport. Some players who didn't come from money or privilege especially resented the idea. They had come up through adversity, fighting their way from tough backgrounds to earn their millions. In their eyes, they were in no position to take responsibility for the WNBA's shortcomings. This clash also brought forward some of the lesser-discussed aspects of the WNBA's structure. Unlike the NBA, which stands as a financially independent giant, the WNBA depends on NBA support to a large degree. This dependency comes in the form of NBA subsidies, which help fund operations, marketing, and sometimes even salaries. But even with this support, the WNBA struggles to capture a massive audience. And while the league has certainly grown over the years, the numbers simply haven't reached the levels that many had hoped for. The fact that they needed NBA players to chip in even more underscored the perceived lack of growth and left many fans wondering what it would take for the WNBA to sustain itself independently. Yet, even with these criticisms swirling around, there was an undeniable undertone of respect for the WNBA players' audacity. They had asked for something that no one else would have dared, a direct handout from their male counterparts. And they did it with a boldness that made some people admire their nerve. The players weren't afraid to ruffle feathers or stir up controversy to bring attention to the inequality they felt. They were willing to risk public criticism and even ridicule to demand what they believed they deserved. In a way, their demand was a statement about women's sports in general, pushing against a status quo that has long relegated female athletes to second-tier status in terms of pay and visibility. Social media played a huge role in shaping the public's reaction. Memes, sarcastic comments, and heated debates took over timelines and feeds, with users from all sides jumping in with their takes. Some compared the WNBA's demand to asking the NBA to be a parent that gives its allowance to a less successful child. Others took it a step further, painting the WNBA players as people who couldn't take no for an answer, demanding money from their friends simply because they were in the same business. The whole thing turned into a kind of internet sideshow, where people were less interested in nuanced debate and more in throwing out the wittiest singers. At the end of the day, the event marked a watershed moment for both leagues, sparking a conversation about pay equity, audience engagement, and the future of women's professional sports. While it was easy to get caught up in the jokes and memes, the issue had a serious undercurrent that resonated deeply with many fans. The WNBA's demand highlighted the challenges facing women's sports leagues across the board. It underscored the limitations of depending on subsidies from male leagues and raised questions about what it would really take for women's sports to stand on their own financially. In the midst of all the controversy, it was hard not to feel a little admiration for the WNBA players who dared to speak up. They weren't just asking for money. They were pushing for a fundamental shift in the way women's sports are viewed and valued. But the way they went about it, demanding direct contributions from NBA players, was bold to the point of reckless, inviting backlash that may have distracted from the core issue. Still, for better or worse, they succeeded in drawing attention to the problem, sparking discussions that might eventually lead to change, even if it doesn't happen as fast as they'd like. As the dust settles, one thing is certain: the WNBA's bold demand won't be forgotten anytime soon. Whether it leads to more sustainable changes or just becomes another story in the annals of sports controversies, only time will tell. But for now, the players have made their mark, proving that they're willing to shake things up, even if it means taking a few hits along the way. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.